Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining today's panel discussion on Planning for a Resilient Tomorrow, the calm before the storm. I'm excited to be joined by our two panelists. First, we have Mary Rocheleau, a Senior Technology Program Manager at Mercy Corps. Mary leads cloud adoption initiatives for the Technology for Development team. Prior to joining Mercy Corps, Mary led electronic medical record systems development initiatives, as well as designing and implementing data warehouses for reporting and analytics. Also joining us today are Alejandro Muguerza Limon, who's the National Fundraising Director for the Mexican Red Cross, or Cruz Roja. Alejandro is joining us from Mexico City in Mexico, so thank you for joining today. Now, before we dive in, just briefly, my name is Grace Kitzmiller, and I'm our panel moderator for today. My role is a Senior Solutions Lead for the AWS Disaster Response Program. The AWS Disaster Response Program focuses on exploring how technology can improve the response and resiliency capabilities of nonprofit, non-governmental, and humanitarian organizations, as well as government agencies and ministries. We work backwards from the needs of these organizations to help understand what are the biggest technology and infrastructure challenges that they encounter while preparing for, responding to, or recovering from a disaster. And we do this through three mechanisms. First, with people. We have AWS experts on our core disaster response program team or remote and deployable volunteers that can assist. Through information, there's such a vast amount of information that's available via the AWS Open Datasets program, the AWS Data Exchange, or that organizations are collecting, curating, and gathering on their own. And then last, through AWS technology, whether it's storage, databases, compute, data lakes, artificial intelligence, machine learning, edge compute, and more, as well as solutions that are available from AWS partners. With that, let's go ahead and dive right into the panel. Alejandro, turning to you first, can you spend a minute to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how the Mexican Red Cross interacts with the communities that you support?
Sure. My name is Alejandro Muguerza, as you mentioned it, Grace. I'm a fundraising director for Mexican Red Cross in Mexico. And let me introduce what the Mexican Red Cross does in Mexico. The Mexican Red Cross works 7 days, 24 hours a day. Every single day, we help communities on several aspects of disaster response, resilience. We do a lot of aid training, healthy habit trainings, pre-hospital attention with our paramedics. We do 8 out of every 10 ambulance services in Mexico. We also do a lot of helping Mexicans to fight for dignity and win the battle against suffering. With the help of more than 48,000 volunteers, we focus on resilience, preparedness, response, and recovering for every prevent and respond effective and to reduce any kind of damage in any of our communities.
Right, that's such a broad scope. It's so impactful to hear about the work that you're doing. Mary, can you introduce yourself and provide some detail on Mercy Corps' mission and how you support the communities where you're active?
Sure, great. My name is Mary Rocheleau. Thank you very much for having me in part of this conversation. I work on the Technology for Development team at Mercy Corps. Mercy Corps is an international humanitarian organization, and we work in over 40 countries. And in those countries, we work in the most complex settings. Our mission is to build more secure, productive, and just communities. And we use things like technology and breakthrough solutions to maximize our social impact worldwide. We believe that innovation is a core part of our mission, and we use technology to do things like shrink the digital divide, respond to urgent needs, and as Alejandro said as well, building more resilient communities. So we strive to apply technology solutions across our global program portfolio to improve our effectiveness and to scale more widely as well.
Great, thanks. I'm hearing a theme of resilient communities, so sounds like we're on the right track.
2020 struck Mexico in several ways. The Mexican Red Cross teams helped the people affected by the earthquake in several stages. disaster response rescue, medical attention, resilience strategy, human aid delivery. What we need now is to focus on coaching throughout the years to help community recover the sooner as the better. We're almost the same in case of other natural disasters, rescue, pre-medical attention. I don't know if you know, but uh, besides the COVID-19, we have a lot of accidents, and we still doing everything we used to do before the COVID-19 in Mexico. Technology, and especially the cloud services and other tools, were vital to our stage of disaster response. We could get access to intern and communicate our disaster response teams, no matter where they were or situation they were fighting against. We also could be close to our volunteers, share every effective tools, protocols, information, and guidance needed to rescue activities. Our donors were also informed in real time the official instructions, news, and needs that help us to reduce the risk of people getting informed and to fake news.
Alejandro, thanks for sharing some of that detail around response activities and how you're accelerating your response activities. Preparedness is such an important part of effective response and mitigation of the impacts of a disaster. And I know volunteers are such an important part of the Mexican Red Cross's work. Can you talk about some of the ways that AWS has helped Mexican Red Cross to support volunteer activities as well as to support preparedness for disasters?
Sure, as I say, the cloud services, the platforms, and other technologies are now part of our lives. We need them to reduce the time, the costs, and several activities for our volunteers. With our partners, with our donors, with the communities in general. The AWS made easier for us to train more deeply and staff, and using any other resources to humanitarian acts by reducing costs of training. Another win was that volunteers can now be closer in contact and for communities with leaders and coaches. Consider also the fact of having big data, documents and materials always available. That is very important for a specific analysis of every case and situation. Not only we can reduce time and costs, but now we can have more data to help people and improve our humanitarian action every single day.
Well, thank you so much for that, Alejandro. Mary, can you talk about some of the types of humanitarian challenges that Mercy Corps supports communities with? I'm wondering if there might be some similarities or some interesting alignments with the work that the Mexican Red Cross does.
Yeah, absolutely. We think of our work in kind of three big categories, each of which ladders up on top of one another. So first, we think about saving lives and livelihoods. This is our work around empowering people to find opportunities during times of crises. Crises could mean a natural disaster, conflict, political upheaval, or social or economic collapse. But we see these moments of transition or disruption of the status quo as a window of opportunity. In our work, while it begins during a crisis, we really aim to help communities recover and then become more resilient. And that's really what drives our humanitarian response with those fragile populations. Next, we think about transformational change at fragile places. So we attempt to identify solutions and drive towards addressing the underlying causes of fragility and move those communities towards resilience. Finally, we think about transformational change at scale and at depth. We identify new technologies, aim to use novel business models or novel partnerships to overcome poverty and suffering. So we aim to identify solutions, test them in our global locations, and then bring them to scale. When we think about this kind of classification of the work that we do, we also think about it in 5 big thematic areas as well. Humanitarian response, food and water security, economic opportunity, climate adaptation, and peace and governance. Each of those 5 themes has those 3 kind of striations of work that we do at Mercy Corps.
Great. Really interesting to hear how you consider both sort of 3 areas of support and then 5 thematic components of how you provide support to communities. Mary, can you talk a little bit about how Mercy Corps has used AWS to support anticipating the needs of the communities?
Absolutely, yeah. Historically, humanitarian response has been just that, responsive rather than anticipatory. After a natural disaster, Mercy Corps might respond to a long-term crisis or acute disaster by distributing cash, vouchers, food, or shelter kits. But it's always been responsive to the needs of the community. We've really been shifting that with cloud technology. Using data from the World Food Program, we've been able to create a predictive model which anticipates key commodity prices in the countries in which we work. Looking ahead, using that historic data about crop availability, government regulation, and historic price information, we're able to understand and anticipate food shortages or anticipate which families might not be able to afford critical food items. This has changed the nature of our response to be more targeted and more proactive rather than reactive as it has been before adopting some of these cloud solutions.
Great. Really, really amazing to hear some of this great work that Mercy Corps is doing. Alejandro, have there been any, surprising or unexpected outcomes from the Mexican Red Cross's use of AWS and technology through preparedness and response?
Well, let me tell you that I don't know if you know, but Mexico as a country is a really big country. We have 32 states. They're very different one from each other. So with implementing technology in these 32 national websites and landing pages, gave us the chance to focus on what we really need, which is saving lives, training volunteers, giving information, and rescue the best of time and resources before we did manual procedures, and now we can do it. Thank you for what AWS put on our hands. Being all connected in real time, identifying needs, disaster zones more quickly and specific, given the accurate information was key to strengthen our humanitarian actions and empowering our volunteers more than before. When technology does what it instead of to do, in volunteers and response can help more people every day.
Oh, that's great. It's really interesting to hear how you've seen technology help you distribute information across your volunteers better, have really better connectivity and communication of information across the 32 states that you have in Mexico. Can you talk a little bit more about what you have in mind or what's in the works for 2021?
Well, 2021 is a year of a great challenges. We're still fighting against the regular disaster, and as you know, the stronger they are stronger every year, but also against new and still unknown ones. As a matter of fact, the COVID-19. We need to use technology to reduce time, space of information, gap, and that can be a risk for humanitarian dignity of lives. So we're looking in work with AWS with 3 important projects, which are Amazon Connect, Snow Family, and Mapping for Preparedness and Response.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're looking towards with Amazon Connect, maybe doing some work related to your call centers in case there's a significant influx of calls. And then with edge technology, right after a disaster occurs, sometimes there's no connectivity. And so being able to bring those resources with you in the field can be important.
Right.
Great. And of course, mapping, knowing and understanding where those critical supplies, critical infrastructure are, where specific kinds of buildings are is truly important to preparedness as well. Right. Thank you. Mary, just turning to you briefly, have you seen any unexpected outcomes or impacts of using technology through Mercy Corps' work in 2020 and starting here into 2021?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really excited about what we've been seeing. humanitarian contexts are notoriously data poor. The data might be outdated or incomplete or incompatible formats, etc. And one of the main benefits that we're really excited about is being able to derive more insights from the data that we already have. Collecting more data can be really challenging, but what about making better use of what we already have? One of the really early challenges that we discovered when we were kind of moving towards these cloud solutions was defining the world of the possible. What can we do with these tools? The folks who work at Mercy Corps are experts in the context and the situations in which they're working, but maybe they haven't used these technology tools. And so kind of brainstorming what ways we can apply these novel and innovative tools to the problems that we face has been a really exciting opportunity. One of our key priorities early on has been to bring folks both within Mercy Corps but also the larger NGO sector along about the potential use cases and opportunities to apply these tools. One example was that often teams collect baseline data at the beginning of a 5-year program, and then they collect follow-up information at the end of that 5-year program. What about the possibility of collecting more data more frequently, like annually or monthly, but also gaining more insight from that information? So we're really excited about the possibility of using these AWS tools to collect more and do more with that to understand how we can better adapt our program activities and ultimately to make a larger impact as well.
So, what are some of your priorities for 2021, Mary?
We're really excited about the potential to scale. One of the major benefits we've seen is the opportunity to build something once, but then scale it to many contexts in which Mercy Corps works. So right now we're working on building a data lake to like monitor longitudinal data over time, and also we see the immense potential of data security. Storing data securely and safely is a key priority for Mercy Corps and many humanitarian organizations. And so historically, we've struggled with fragmented information or teams kind of building their own solutions rather than taking one holistic approach to be able to address country and regional and international best practices around data security. We're really excited about rolling out this data lake and corresponding analytical tools sitting on top of that data lake to more Mercy Corps teams globally and to deepen our understanding of where we work and use that information to improve our operations.
Okay, great. And maybe one last question. Have you seen any changes in sort of timelines or speed to deployment through your use of AWS for some of the different initiatives you're working on?
Absolutely. We're really excited about the potential to rapidly scale programs and technology solutions. Being able to build something once and quickly roll it out to a lot of other contexts is really exciting. A solution that we build once for a country in the Africa region can rapidly be deployed to other teams in the Middle East or in Central America. So we see a lot of potential to expose these tools to more folks on the Mercy Corps teams and ultimately expand their impact. And that's one of the major advantages we've seen right at the beginning of our cloud adoption journey.
Great. Well, we're almost at time, but I'd like to give both Alejandro and Mary just time for a few brief closing remarks. Alejandro?
Yes, we really would love to thank AWS team for every support we have receiving from them, especially the people that help us to get close to information, to the cloud that is going to be helping the Mexican Red Cross to analyze each stage of the pandemic, updating our efforts almost every day to get needs covered, to make easier to people. They have been sort of our tourist guidance companion in this pandemic. And we are going to be focusing on helping people. That is what we need. We do the best, but without the help of AWS, we couldn't do that now.
Great. Thank you so much, Alejandro. Mary, any closing remarks for you?
Yeah, definitely echoing Alejandro's appreciation. We're just getting started on our cloud adoption journey, and we know we have more to do, but we're so excited about the potential and learning more from other organizations, how they're using these tools and understanding what potential they have has been so exhilarating for us, and we see so much potential to continue expanding them. We're really excited.
Great. Well, in closing, I would like to thank both Alejandro and Mary for joining this panel discussion today and providing some insights into how you see your preparedness activities changing, how you're exploring technology, how it's having an impact on your ability to deliver the different kinds of support that you do across these really complex and challenging areas of disasters and crises. I also want to just, thank both of your organizations for all the important work that you do. It's so critical to, the preparedness, response, and recovery, and providing some of that quite necessary support for these communities. So, thank you very much.